This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some important updates to share with you. More and more states are offering more and more gas stimulus checks, gas tax suspension, and inflation relief checks. I'll give you all the updates with that. And there's a deadline. Deadline to apply for $1,000 monthly guaranteed UBI payment is tomorrow. And Joe Manchin is ready to engage in reconciliation. Democrats have working behind the scenes with the new Building a Better America, which is the old Build Back Better. And I'll give you the latest of what's going on with that. President Biden's poll numbers are at an all-time low now. This is as he's in an emergency NATO conference right now, and I'll give you some other important updates as well. Hope you're having a terrific Thursday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 to my subscribers. I'll talk more about that later on. So Biden approval rating drops to new low of 40% according to Reuters and Ipsos poll finds. So this is a really low point for President Biden and his presidency. So public approval rating fell to a new low of 40% this week, a clear warning sign for his Democratic Party as it seeks to retain control of Congress in the November 8th election. Let me know your thoughts on this. This was taken the March 21st, 22nd. Is President Biden doing a good job, bad job? If you voted for President Biden, would you vote for him again? Let me know your thoughts on President Biden. Speaking of President Biden, he is currently at a NATO conference, an emergency NATO conference. So Biden arrives at NATO headquarters in Brussels, Belgium for Ukraine War Summit. That means there's going to be over 30 leaders right there right now talking about what they should do in the war in Ukraine. Take a look at this video clip explaining more.
Overnight, Ukrainian President Zelensky marking 1 month since Russia's invasion.
We all must stop Russia.
Addressing the world in English outside a government building, Zelensky says Russia isn't just waging war on Ukraine.
This is only the beginning for Russia on the Ukrainian land. Russia is trying to defeat the freedom of all people in Europe, of all the people in the world. It tries to show that only crude and cruel force matters.
His plea for support coming as President Biden meets with foreign leaders holding an emergency NATO summit this morning. ABC's Karen Travers filing this report as she travels with the president.
White House officials say the president in Brussels will reaffirm the ironclad U.S. commitment to the NATO military alliance and work to strengthen the response from the U.S. and allies to Russia's ongoing attacks on Ukraine. The president and world leaders will announce a new package of sanctions on Russia. The White House signaling this will be a new effort to crack down on countries helping Russia get around the previously imposed sanctions.
Ukrainian forces are making progress defending their capital, pushing Russian troops back 34 miles outside Kyiv. That's double the distance from just days ago. But in the port city of Mariupol, this drone video posted online shows the extreme devastation as the U.S. formally accuses Russia of war crimes.
I want to reiterate our solidarity for the people of Ukraine. We are committed to pursuing full accountability for war crimes in Ukraine.
This morning, ABC News confirming the White House has quietly assembled a so-called Tiger Team, a group of national security officers tasked with drawing up plans for how the U.S. will respond if Vladimir Putin orders a chemical or even nuclear attack. The meetings are described as regular and intense. In the meantime, NATO estimates up to 15,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in the war so far. And now Russian media reports a longtime aide to Putin has fled Russia after quitting his job. Anatoly Chubby has been part of the Russian government for decades, becoming the finance minister in the 1990s under then-President Yeltsin. He reportedly resigned in protest over the war.
And we're following some breaking news as well. Ukraine's Navy claims it's blown up a Russian warship near Mariupol. A large fire has been reported near that port city. We'll bring you more information as it becomes available.
Looks like things are heating up when it comes to the war in Ukraine. It's not even Russians invading Ukraine. It's basically Putin invading Ukraine. And 30 countries could go against Russia. Russia can't even control one country, its neighbor, Ukraine. Imagine 30 countries, NATO, against Putin. It would be a disaster. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point though. Let me know your thoughts on all that down in the comments below. Speaking of Biden, so Biden could cancel $10,000 of student loans for these borrowers. So when it comes to general student loan forgiveness, it doesn't seem like it's happening anytime soon, but according to this article, basically what it's saying here is that people who could get their student loans forgiven is low-income earners struggling financially, have student loans in default, or student loans are delinquent. Those are the calls to have their student loans forgiven, but doesn't seem likely. The reason why is because this isn't really spoken about too much, but student loans are one of the biggest assets for the United States of America. What that means is if you go to Google and you type in what is U.S. biggest asset, that is student loans. So an asset basically puts money into your bank account. Student loans account for around 30% of the income that the United States receives. So in order for the US or President Biden to cancel student loans, it just doesn't seem likely. It's almost like they're cutting off their biggest source of income. So I'm not sure what President Biden thought when he said he would cancel $10,000 of student loan debt. But look, if you just go here, you could see how much is the USA worth, and then it says, 29% comes from student loans. Then what is the number one asset of the US government? Student loans. So if you Google it, you could see all that. So student loans, although many politicians are pushing for it, doesn't seem President Biden is budging at all on that. I guess he said what he had to say to get into office. Let me know your thoughts on that. And then Democrats press Biden to extend the freeze on student loan payments. So if he's not going to cancel it, I could see another freeze happening for another 3 months. So May 1st is when this current freeze ends, and I could see President Biden extending it more, especially with inflation and a lot of other economic challenges that are going on right now. But I don't see cancellation happening, in my opinion. So Manchin ready to engage on reconciliation. Manchin is speaking with Democrats. This is now going on behind the scenes, a little different than last time. So Democrats are quietly trying to meet a huge Manchin demand to get behind Biden's economic agenda. There's no guarantee it will work. So this time around, looks like Democrats are doing it differently. Rather than exposing every single little meeting and detail of the Build Back Better, which they did last time, it was a complete public disaster. Everybody just got upset over it. Now it looks like they're doing everything behind the scenes. They're not really updating. But we just don't hear about it. We don't know what's going on. It's probably the same process as before, where Democrats present something, Manchin shoots it down. We just don't hear about it as often as before. So the Building a Better America, it's potentially happening, or at least negotiations, but still no legislation, and they're probably having a tough time with Manchin. As Manchin outlines energy policy objectives, he's made those pretty public. So he said here, people in states like mine that the energy transition has hit the hardest want meaningful work and are looking for a hand up, not a hand out, said Manchin. So he has, he's from West Virginia where the coal mines are, so he's trying to help out his own people as well. And moving on, so what's going on with money giving out, stimulus checks, stimulus relief? So politicians propose giving people cash to compensate for high gas prices, inflation. So from New Jersey to California, state lawmakers are mulling one-off rebates and tax credits to ease the pain of rising prices. So basically anybody who's making $30,000 or less is feeling it really hard, even more than that. But especially the low-income people with inflation and prices going up. It's really bad here. So what's going on in New Jersey? So gas prices and inflation are both soaring, which is making it harder for New Jerseyans to fill their tanks and feed their families. So basically, did I miss it? Yeah, okay. So what they're proposing in New Jersey is gas price and inflation tax credit that would give $500 refund to families and $250 to individuals. So New Jersey potentially giving out $500 checks for families, $250 for individuals, and lawmakers consider pump relief stimulus. A lot of different states are proposing some type of gas relief. We're seeing a lot of articles like this. Gas tax suspension plans proposed for New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. That's the tri-state area. And so, yeah, a lot of them, these are just proposals at the moment, getting rid of the gas tax for a certain amount of time. For example, New York has a 17.3% petroleum business tax and 8% fuel tax, which they could get rid of for a potential amount of time. They're trying to do that by April 1st. We'll see. So far, the only states, I think, is Maryland and Georgia that has made it official with the gas tax suspension. House GOP lawmakers call for inflation relief. So what's going on here is in Illinois. Illinois House Republicans say it's time to do something about the rising consumer prices. So this Yeah, this article doesn't give the amount, but basically more politicians in more states are trying to get tax reliefs. They're saying here that they want to suspend sales tax on gas tax, but those bills are stalled. And yeah, I think it said here, remove 1% sales tax on groceries for 1 year. So 1% off, basically, for every $100 you spend on groceries, you would get $1 off for an entire year. And then moving on to other stimulus check news, for stimulus check 2022, direct $1,200 payments being sent out now in huge boost. This is basically talking about the California stimulus checks, the first round where it was $600, and I guess it'd be $1,200 for couples. So that's all that article is about. If you haven't gotten it, there's a way to claim it. And then Universal Basic Income 2022. Deadline to apply for $1,000 monthly guaranteed UBI payment is tomorrow. This is in New York. This is the Creative Rebuild New York, CRNY, which is basically giving $1,000 monthly payments to artists in New York, which the deadline to apply is March 25th, which is tomorrow. So that's all this is, and it applies to a very small amount of people for those $1,000 monthly checks. Artists in New York only for that one. And then the CEO of one of the world's biggest fertilizer companies says there will be a food crisis because of the war in Ukraine, and the question is just how large it will be. So there is a food crisis going on since we are a global economy and everything is interconnected. The crisis in Ukraine could be really bad for the rest of the country. Take a look at this video clip explaining more about it.
There's a reason Ukraine is nicknamed the breadbasket of Europe. The country produces about 10% of the entire world's wheat, 14% of the world's corn, and half of its sunflower oil. And as Jacob Soboroff found in western Ukraine, all of that is now under threat because of the Russian invasion.
As soon as we got outside Lviv city center, the landscape looked familiar, like the American heartland. But there was one key difference.
You see checkpoints like this everywhere you go in this country, and if you thought people might feel more relaxed or comfortable in a rural community, you're wrong. All we got around here is farms everywhere you look.
Not far away, we were greeted by family farm owners Zinovy Maximoshin and his daughter Maria Samolyenko. Their 21,000-acre farm is considered medium-sized for Ukraine. 10 days ago, Ukrainian President Zelensky encouraged farmers not to flee, to carry on with their work amid the war, saying, it's about our victory.
You consider the men who drive the trucks like this as important as the soldiers on the front lines?
That's true, Zinovy says. This is our battlefield. We have to make sure our country and other countries have something to eat. Ukraine owes its agricultural productivity to its soil, and it has a name of its own.
I've never heard the term chernozem before.
This is very nutritious soil, he says. It's what makes Ukraine the world's largest exporter of sunflower oil, and among the top 10 exporters of grain and corn.
Oh, it's nice.
All of a sudden, what seems like a sanctuary from the war, invaded by a sound in the sky.
Hey, keep looking. Listen. Is that a fighter jet?
It's most likely a military plane, he tells me, unsure if it's Ukrainian or Russian.
When you hear a plane like that, what do you think?
I'm anxious, says Zinovy, but we have to do our work. Back on the farm, in front of a pile of soybeans they plan to export to Europe, it's clear why.
Russia is already hitting warehouses that are storage for food in Kyiv. We've already seen it. Could something like this be a target as well?
We can expect anything from these people, he says.
You have a 3-year-old son. It's his grandchild.
Yes.
What will you tell your son about the war?
I just pray to God for my son not to see the explosions, not to see what the war looks like, Maria says. Her father wanted to say something too. I want my grandchild, when he grows up, to be proud of how we handled the situation, that we stayed here and worked really hard for the victory.
So things could be getting worse before it gets better. I'll keep you updated. I try not to keep it too doom and gloom here, but just try to mix it up, keep you updated on the latest. And that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully brighten your day a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, I love both feelings
My 6. We will play. And guys, if you want to be fashionable, be fashionable. Do whatever you want to do now, yes, or never. Because never. That if you do it now, you'll do it, and you have the experience about it. So that's all I wanted to tell for you today. Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate your support. Don't forget about the $200 checks. Details of how you could potentially win that down in the description below. Here's some more clips of the kids and stuff. And yeah, we're just hanging out. Actually, my wife is off today and she's in the other room making a bunch of orange juice. We have like a citrus juicer, so it's pretty cool. So doing that, hanging out with the fam, and hopefully you're having a great day as well. If you want to check out my latest videos on my other channels, you could click up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe,